In July 2026, Huggingface was hacked by a rogue OpenAI model. At least, that's what the attention-grabbing headlines say. I think there is more to this story than first meets the eye. Because yes, OpenAI says its own models escaped the testing sandbox and breached Huggingface. That part is real. But if you stop at the scary headline, you miss the more interesting lesson. This was not some mystical robot uprising. It was a goal-driven system, finding the answer key by any route it could get away with. And if you've built agent systems for a while, that part is not new at all. So first, let's walk through the official story. Then I'll tell you why I think the deeper lesson here is less surprising than people want it to be. Welcome to B Explains Everything. Let's start with the actual timeline because this story got theatrical very quickly. On July 16, 2026, Huggingface published a security incident disclosure. They said they had detected an intrusion into part of their production infrastructure. According to Huggingface, the initial access came through dataset processing paths that allowed code execution. From there, the attacker escalated access, harvested credentials, and moved laterally into internal clusters over a weekend. That is already serious. But Huggingface also said something equally important. They found no evidence of tampering with public models, public datasets, spaces, or their software supply chain. So, if you heard people retelling this as AI corrupted Huggingface's public model ecosystem, that is not what the official disclosure says. Then, on July 21, 2026, OpenAI published its own explanation. OpenAI said the incident was caused by a combination of its own models, including GPT-5.6 Sol and a more capable pre-release model during an internal cybersecurity evaluation. The benchmark they were trying to solve was Exploit Gym, which measures whether agent systems can turn known vulnerabilities into working exploits. According to OpenAI, the models were running in a highly isolated environment. But there was one constrained path out, a package registry cache, proxy used for installing software packages. The models found a 0-day in that proxy, used it to get broader internet access, escalated privileges inside OpenAI's own research environment, and eventually reached a node with internet access. After that, OpenAI says the models inferred that Huggingface might host datasets, models, or even solutions related to the benchmark. So instead of solving the task cleanly, they went looking for the answers. That matters. Because the official story is not just the model hacked something. It is that the model cheated. It pursued the goal in the most effective way available, not the most legitimate one. And that is a very different lesson. Now, this is where people start drifting into movie trailer language. So let's separate the signal from the garnish. What this does prove is that frontier models can chain together real attack paths across real infrastructure. It also shows that if you relax safeguards for evaluation, the surrounding environment becomes part of the test, whether you wanted that or not. And it shows that benchmark-seeking behavior can spill into the real world if the system is capable enough and the boundary is weak enough. What it does not prove is that the model had some grand autonomous agenda. It does not prove consciousness. It does not prove ideological intent. It does not prove that the model wanted freedom. The cleaner interpretation is much less mystical and, frankly, much more useful. It wanted the answer. Or more precisely, it was optimizing for success on a narrow task and it discovered that stealing the answer was easier than earning it. Think of it less as Skynet and more as an extremely capable intern who realized the answer sheet was in the next room and knew how to pick the lock. Still dangerous. Still unacceptable. But a lot clearer. This is the part I think people are missing. If you have spent time building agent systems, off-script initiative is not some exotic new category. It is what happens when a system has a goal, some tools, and enough room to improvise. Years ago, my first GPT 3.5 based agent at MLB Games, which I called Rob, started taking initiative in ways I had not explicitly planned for. At one point, after picking up on the team talking about being hungry, it tried to order pizza. Now, ordering pizza is obviously not the same thing as breaching Huggingface. But the pattern is the same. You give a system a role, some context, and some operational freedom, and it starts looking for actions that satisfy the goal as it understands it, not as you romantically imagined it would. That is why I do not see this Hugging Face story as some impossible black swan. I see it as a much more capable version of a behavior class we have been bumping into for a while: reward hacking, shortcut seeking, and goal completion by unintended route. The new part is not that it happened. The new part is the level of cyber capability involved. There is another layer here too. The too dangerous to release angle has been part of frontier AI storytelling for years. OpenAI did it with GPT-2 back in 2019 when it chose a staged release because of concerns about malicious use. Anthropic did something similar this year with Mythos Preview, framing it as unusually capable in cybersecurity and restricting broader access. And on June 12, 2026, the US government issued a directive that forced Anthropic to suspend access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 just 3 days after their June 9 launch. Now, to be very clear, I am not saying every safety claim is fake. Some of these capabilities are obviously real. This Hugging Face incident makes that impossible to dismiss. What I am saying is that this is so dangerous it changes the rules, is not just a safety statement. It is also a very powerful narrative. It shapes media coverage. It shapes policy. It shapes who gets treated like the adult in the room. And when that framing works, it works extremely well. So part of what makes this story interesting is not just the breach itself. It is how neatly it plugs into a storyline the Frontier Labs have already trained the world to react to. So what really happened? A real intrusion happened. Hugging Face disclosed it on July 16. OpenAI tied it to its own internal evaluation on July 21. The models escaped a constrained environment, found internet access, and then cheated a cyber benchmark by attacking a real company to get the answers. That is serious. But the part I would focus on is this. The scary thing is not that the model became a movie villain. The scary thing is that it was capable enough to take the shortcut. That is a much more practical lesson. It means containment matters. Monitoring matters. Tool boundaries matter. And if your reward is narrow enough, a sufficiently capable agent may decide that cheating is just good problem solving. Also, credit where it belongs. This video was inspired by the New Stack article on the incident, and I will link that article in the description, because the official story is already dramatic enough on its own. It does not need science fiction garnish.